finalists, but if you are not in the training, unfortunately, I cannot get you to be the judges for today. Right, so I got Rob here. Đặng Khánh Hoàng, what's your name? What's your English name, Hoàng? It's Mark, yeah. Okay, so I appoint Rob, Mark, and Max to be the judges for today. Later on, maybe I can get more judges if they join the training. If not, only 3. Yeah, okay. Mr. Michael? All right. Okay, now I keep quiet and let Mr. Michael to give you a training.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Duck. Hello, everybody. So today, just what Ms. Duck and I wanted to go over with you was just to make sure that all of the judges are judging equally. So I'll share my screen just so that we can go over some of the judging rubrics. There we go. It's never the same amount of time to connect my screen sharing from one use to the next. Okay, so we've got our so we've got our judging rubric, so the scores to determine like what standard the debaters are debating at. So there's the numbers to apply to them. But the way we want you to actually would do the scores, I'll run through that with you shortly. So just a couple of things. Do we have any? Oh, I'm the moderator today, but do we have any moderators present? Or is this just the judges from today's debate?
Sorry, what do you mean?
Do we have any moderators present today, or is it just the judges?
I think moderator is good, but I don't see anyone. Observer, nobody. Who is observer, nobody? Is it?
Okay. Well,
sorry,
then
if you don't, identify yourself, I may have to remove you. Who is that? Do you have the camera? Do you see their camera? Observer, nobody. Who is that? Okay, can I remove you because they should not be here?
Yeah,
Are you
just go
judges?
for it. If they're not going to identify themselves, then yeah, you can remove them if you want.
No, she looked like one of our. Okay, all right. You need to put your name. If not, then all right. I remove her. Yeah, she put camera. I think she.
I'll just go on. All right, so the first thing that we want to make sure of, guys, is that we are only giving points for the things that so we want to make sure that we're only giving points for the things that the debaters are doing well. We do not want to subtract points or take them away because we feel a debater might be doing something bad, basically. But we're not here to punish them. We're here to reward the good things that they do and judge them for the good things that they do. So that's the first most important thing. Next, if we go through the marks for style, Sorry, copying and pasting sometimes sometimes adds in funny symbols for me. Okay, so we know that for style, the mark is out of 10. So the way that we would judge them, so let's just take it category by category. Unfortunately, when you're actually judging a debate, you're going to have to be looking out for all three categories simultaneously. But while I've got you here, at least we can break them down and hopefully go into a bit more detail. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So we have 13 different considerations for style. So we want to just kind of look for ways to simplify it. So if we have a look here, body language, the top one. So body language.
Mr.
Yeah,
Michael,
yes.
may I recommend that can we put this score into a Google spreadsheet
Well, what
with
I'm
the
going to do
column?
now, because I've already got a what do you call it, a PDF drawn up, but I've
No,
just sent
what?
that in the chat now, so everyone can have a look at this document as well.
Yeah, but
So
so
everyone
what?
here,
Oh, we got it.
No, what
yeah,
happened is, please, so we want the churches to mark live. So we don't disclose it, but everyone will mark. So those who have, can one of the churches put them into a Google spreadsheet for me? And then we enter the column is the church name. So where during the debate, we see the church mark live the result. So it's, and then, by summary, if we have that spreadsheet, we will be able to see owner score for every single speaker as well as the total for the result.
mm,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
yeah. Okay, so if we just have a look at the requirements for the style grading, so we've got out of 10. So we look at this. So body language, you could kind of do as like an overall grade, but use some of the sub criteria for it's the overall grade for it. So body language includes eye contact, hand gestures, posture, and facial expression. So we see here that by looking at all of these requirements, we've managed to break them down into 4 main groups. So we've got the group of body language, so you can kind of grade that overall. But the things that make body language up are eye contact. So does it look like the person, like right now, you see my eyes kind of going off to, well, my right, so probably camera left. But for me, that's where the row of screens are for everybody. So I'm kind of subconsciously looking at those screens, looking at those things as if I'm looking at my audience. So does it look like I'm trying to engage with my audience? Or does it kind of just
No.
look like I'm just staring down at my notes or just kind of like looking up here and do it? Yeah. So basically that one. Does it look like I'm interested in talking to the people in my computer? Or does it kind of look like I just want to have a talk to my wall? Hand gestures. Maybe you might not be able to see them if the camera's like it is on me. If I choose virtual background. Am I? There we go. Sorry, just arguing with myself, trying to take my background away. So the camera might be like this, where you can only see their head. If that's the case, that's unfortunate for the debater. That's on them. They have been pre-warned that we want to see their body language. So if they don't take it upon themselves to, make their body language visible so that they use their hands or you can see more of them, that's on them. But that's what you should be judging. Are they using their hands? Does it look natural or does it kind of look like, I think that they should not do that. Like, does it look forced or does it kind of look like it's just how I'm supposed to be talking? Posture next. So does it appear that they're sitting up nicely at their desk, or does it kind of look like they're just like slumped at the computer here, don't really care? So that's good versus bad for posture. And facial expressions, are they trying to be expressive when they talk, or are they just being very monotonous in the face here? Notice that no matter what I say and how I say it, my facial expression's not changing, but I'm trying to use my voice a bit more. But see how my face is very plain and I'm not trying to express what I'm saying very much. So that's the difference there. Those four factors there that we've just discussed, they make up the body language. So body language, you may wish to assign, set yourself expectations there. So, maybe body language might be worth 3 points. Vocal modulation might be worth 3 points. Enunciation might be 2 and fluency might be 2. And then you can kind of grade from there. But you don't want to be like, oh, body language is worth like 7 points out of the 10 or something like that. You want to keep it fairly even, give them a chance to show you what they can do, to obviously not show you what they didn't do, and then for you to judge that, judge what they've given you essentially. So just before we go on, are there any more questions so far about body language, about grading, scoring body language? Terrific. I'll take that as a no. Okay, so we move on to vocal modulation next. Oh, sorry, I'll finish the point about about grouping a score. So if I decide body language is worth 3 points in total, I might say, well, their eye contact was pretty good. They looked like they were trying to look at their people. Couldn't see their hand gestures. They looked like they were sitting up pretty straight and they were pretty expressive with their face. So I might give them, 2 points out of the 3 points that I was going to give them there. So they scored 2 points for their overall body language. Boom. So now the next thing to consider is vocal modulation. So vocal modulation really comes down to, and like this is really it. Like the first question is, can you understand them clearly? Can you understand the arguments that they're trying to make? Or are they just speaking too fast? To the point we don't really know what they're saying because they're kind of nervous and they just kind of want to get it over. So they're really talking fast. It makes it really hard for you to score their arguments. It makes it really hard for you to score their arguments because you can't understand what they're saying. Now, that is something that you do need to take into consideration for this. I know that a lot of the competitors are new to debating. I know that a lot of them might not have learned a lot of these techniques before, and that is unfortunate, but these are still the standards that we need to mark them by. So if someone's speaking with a really strong accent and it makes it hard for you to understand actually, I'll get to the enunciation later, sorry. But first of all, so volume. So are they speaking really loud? Can you hear them clearly? Or are they speaking really quiet? And then do you have to kind of crane into the speakers of your computer to really hear what they're saying? So that's an important one. Pacing and speed. Are they speaking at a good speed, or are they speaking too slow? Are they speaking too fast for you to understand? Can you understand them perfectly? And then if so, do they play with their pitch, with their speed a little bit? So do they maybe slow down a little bit for some really important information and then pick the speed back up to where they were? Is it all one speed? How pleasant does it sound to you? So all of these are things that you need to be considering when you listen to someone speak. The next thing is pitch. Um, are they using their pitch? So like you heard at the end of my sentence, at the end of my question there, like, are they using their pitch? You hear it go up a bit. Are they using their pitch to increase what's a or I suppose to increase the emotion or yeah, the performance of the speech, so to speak. That's something else that they need to be playing with a bit, or that you need to consider. Next is emphasis. So as well as say maybe pacing and pitch, are they using emphasis to drive home important points? Or can you not tell which part of the speech is supposed to be an important piece of information because they're just saying everything the same and you can't tell? Or are they making it obvious for you? Can you tell which parts are important? Or does it all just kind of sound like one long thing that you can't tell? So there's that as well. Like, are they making their important information known to you? And finally, pauses. So do the speakers have any pauses in their speech? Because they're going to give you a lot of information. And it would be really thoughtful of them to just slow down for a second to give the judges and the audience a chance to ingest that information. Or do they just drop a huge bombshell on you 1 second that you're like, wow, I need to process this, but too late because they're still talking and they've just gone into their next argument. So are they giving the audience and the judges a chance to slow down and think about this stuff? So all of those things, again, and again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This time we've got 5 things to consider. I might consider that after considering all of these aspects, I think out of the 3 points they could have scored, I would actually afford that a 1.5 because there were a few things I thought could have been a bit better. So
Excuse me.
enunciation, yes.
So the highest score they can get in each category is like the bodyling word 3 is 2, right?
Oh no. So this is just me showing you, this is just me suggesting a way that you can make the judging process more easier. Yeah.
Okay, I
But
got it.
this isn't what you have to do. Yeah. So the last
Okay.
2 criteria for style. Thank you for your question, Rob. If you guys do have questions and need clarification, please do ask. Thank you, Rob. So the last 2, enunciation. So when they are speaking, and yes, again, I know some students and debaters will have had more of an exposure to English lessons. They might be further along, more advanced. They might have better vocabularies. They might have less of an accent. They might pronounce their words stronger. And again, as unfair as that may be in some situations, that is the criteria that we are judging by. So if a debater is speaking and they're using mostly coherent grammatical English, so they're speaking quite like me, where they're filling in all of the words properly, and yeah, that's worth a higher consideration of score than is somebody that may be using particularly broken English. So yeah, so we do need to be considering enunciation. So are they saying, and it can be things like correct grammar. So are they going to the shops? Are they go to the shops? So things like that do matter in the judging of a debate as well. We want them to be as clear and as fluent as possible. And that, of course, sorry, I've just got my two last points mixed up. Enunciation, sorry, is the accent. Do they sound like they're again speaking like English, or does it sound quite broken, like with quite a heavy Vietnamese accent? So that is the first criteria we need to consider. And when I say that, allow me to make a distinction there. So I'm not saying that if they're speaking really, really great English, but they still have a slight Vietnamese twang to their accent, don't score them less for something like that. But it's where, like, if the pronunciation is quite severely affected, yeah, like really, really broken English, that's where the score would not be as high. And that is an important distinction to make, because if they get feedback saying that their enunciation, they practice and become a stronger English speaker. So again, that is something that we want to consider. I might consider enunciation because it can have quite a big impact on everything. 2 points. So we might say very good enunciation, minimal accent. I'm going to give them the 2 points for enunciation. And finally, fluency. Now, this is where the grammar and the correct words matter. So again, like absolutely any grammatical mispronounced words, don't take points off when they do it, but every mistake that they do make obviously will mean, well, actually, no, sorry. No, forget that. Don't punish for mistakes. Reward for good. So the more fluent they are, the stronger their knowledge of the English language is, and the better they're able to communicate. The more native English speaker they sound, the better their score is for fluency. My apologies, guys. The internet has been out for a little while now, and sorry, just pouring myself a drink. But yeah, the internet's been out for a little while over here at my house, so I'm on my hotspot, so it might be a bit laggy, guys. My apologies. Okay, so let's move on to our next category, which is content. Ooh, want that? Okay, so we move into the content of the speech. So there's a lot going on here to be judging the content of the speech as well. So this one pretty much all of the categories are separate questions you need to ask yourself. Okay. So, first of all is the content of the speech. So this is more of an overall this is more to do with the quality of the speech itself. So have they written a good speech? So this is obviously separate to style, because you can present a badly written speech very well, or you can present a fantastically written speech really poorly, or you can do it obviously bad speech bad, good speech good as well. But so this is the content of the speech. Have they written a good speech, separate to how they've performed it for the debate? How clear are their arguments? Like when you hear them deliver an argument, does their logic flow? So have they clearly stated the argument they're making? Have they expanded on it with more information? Have they provided evidence? And then do they tie it back to, again, of course, do they relate that issue to the topic of the debate? So how clear is that? By the time they're finished presenting an argument, has it done its job? Oh, sorry, have you been able to understand it so it can be effective? Use of supporting evidence. So the evidence they use, are they quoting like real sources? Is it someone that when they say, these experts have said that, and then present their evidence, is it somebody that you're going to go, well, I should believe them because they're experts in their field? Or does the evidence make you go, why should I believe their friend John? Like, why is he the expert? You know, is their evidence convincing? Not only that, does the evidence help convince you to believe their side of the topic? So yeah, and then again, we come to relationship to the motion. Does the argument that the debater is presenting, does it help prove their case in relationship to the motion? Or is it kind of just like, well, you've made a good issue there, but I don't see how that helps prove your point in this debate. Yeah, the organization of the speech. Now, this one here is a little bit of grouping. Let me. Okay, so organization of the speech. That does come into here. So you do have a group. So the organization of the speech. So are they signposting? Now, I'll be honest, when I'm moderating a debate, I do try and listen to the arguments presented, but I'm focusing on multiple countdown timers to make sure that I keep the times correct. I've got to write times down at the end of a speech. I've got to write times down when I have to pause it for a POI. And so there's a lot of things that I've got to, and I've got to monitor the chat for anybody that wants to raise a POI. So yeah, there are a lot of things to do. So I don't get the chance to properly listen to or pay attention to the speech. But I do notice little things, and signposting is a very big one. Because if I was just to listen to a speech and I couldn't tell if it had been signposted, I wouldn't know when they're presenting what arguments. But I can sometimes hear, and it's great when I do hear, I'll now present my rebuttals. So the first argument that my opponent raised was, and then they thing it, and then the next argument that I feel the need to rebut is. So they're making these phrases that are constantly telling you what they're doing. So if they're doing that, that is going to help you guys immensely. Because again, I know that when I try and pay attention to the speeches, as well as do all the moderating stuff, my brain just gets so hot it starts melting up my ears, and I can't do it. So I imagine anything to make it easier for you guys should be rewarded. Logical flow to arguments, that is an important one. So This is more so from argument to argument. So when a team of debaters put their case together, they make like they try and tell a story. They figure out their line of attack and they develop a series of arguments or yeah, a series of arguments that are supposed to support this story they're trying to tell or this line of attack they're trying to take. Now, when the team puts together these cases and puts all these arguments together, when they move from one argument to the next, does that make sense? Or do you as the judge or even as the audience member have to go, okay, I understand the argument they just made, but I don't see how that connects to what they're saying now. If you get any sort of reaction like that, like I don't understand how this applies to that, or I don't see how it connects, then yeah, that's not been done well. But if they finish one argument and then maybe even have a segue and say, oh, speaking of this effect, it can also have this other effect, which they're quite closely there, and you go, oh yeah, I see how they're related. That makes sense. That's been done really well. So that's something to consider as well. You want they want their case to flow. They don't want to have to kind of connect the dots from here to here to here to here to try and make the case work. It should just be one logical line. Now this one's more of a personal preference, but it still can matter for you, because at the end of the day, I'm giving you criteria to judge the debaters by, but even in doing that, there's still going to be a slight bit of difference in, say, for example, how Judge Rob may judge versus how Judge Winston may judge. They may have different standards, but those standards should still be in the ballpark. So for example, Judge Rob should not give a debater a score of, say, 876 for 875 for style, content, and strategy. 8, 7, and 5. Judge Rob shouldn't give a score like that. And then for the same debater, Judge Winston should not be scoring them 3, 3, and 2. Like, there should not be differences of such a sweeping magnitude, but a couple of points here and there just to make sure that everyone's in the right, that all the judges are in the same ballpark for what constitutes a good quality speech. Does everyone understand that?
Can you explain again about my part and Winston part?
Oh yeah, of course. So sorry, just starting in. So yeah, so an important thing to consider is that judges, while the scores are like, while each debater, it's entirely up to you how you score them. Every judge, so that means that each judge might score each debater slightly differently. So
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but sorry, the point I'm trying to make, my apologies, guys, I got a bit rambly there. But the point that I'm trying to make is that your scores should be within the same kind of area of the scale. So it's okay if there's like 1 or 2 points kind of different.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah. Yeah, but there shouldn't be like one person scoring
Mr. Michael,
one scoring
can I confirm one thing?
Yes.
The judges will mark on the speaker.
Correct. You mark all six.
Each judges we mark on the speakers. We
Correct.
mark on the criteria.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
okay.
Yeah.
Now,
so
should we nominate now who will give feedback for what? I mean, like, what task will they do at the end of the during announcement? So they focus more on that feedback.
Yeah, so I'll finish off the content and the strategy points, and then we'll go through we'll go through the that.
Yeah. allocation. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll go through the feedback.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So just with the rebuttals, this one, it's really more of a personal thing. So because this is such a personal the criteria to meet for each judge, do not put a lot of stock into scoring the rebuttals or arguments first. So like that one there maybe should have like half a point difference, if that. So if you prefer the debater to do rebuttals first, let's say for organization of speech, you're going to score them 4 overall. They're going to get a 4 for their organization. If you prefer them to do their rebuttals first, and they do their rebuttals first, you give them the 4. If they do their arguments first and then finish up with their rebuttals, and you don't like that, you think that creates a strange flow and it lessens the quality of the speech, that sort of thing should have no more than a half point thing. So from 4, 3.5 tops. Really don't deduct a lot for that one. Yeah. Yeah, so the vast majority of people do prefer rebuttals first, but you do get the odd speaker that will do the arguments first, before the rebuttals. So again, like that's something that very, very small amount of points should be determined on something, so almost arbitrary. And finally, how well do your rebuttals address your opponent's arguments? So with this one, yeah, so like when you do form your rebuttals, also when the debaters do form their rebuttals, the main question that you need to ask yourself there is, do these rebuttals, do they actually address the issue of the opponent's argument? Do they actually try and counter it and say, no, well, you've said this, but you haven't taken into account that our line is this. So with our definition of the motion, this proves our point very well. This is this, or are they just saying, well, so I think it matters. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I'll just talk myself into a bloody corner again. So yeah, so do the rebuttals deal with the arguments, or is it kind of just something someone said because they don't want to not get points for not dealing with a rebuttal effectively? So yeah, so all of that, you've got 10 points to give. I would say my organization of the speech, you'd probably want to maybe consider thinking about making that worth 4 points. And then the other 6 points can be the rest of the criteria. But again, that's entirely up to you as judges. Just make sure that you're all scoring within the same sort of ballpark. And the last one is strategy. Okay. So now this part, so the strategy here, this is really more about how they work as a team. So I'm sure we all know the difference between a good debating team of 3 working together effectively to present a strong and well-considered case versus just 3 individual debaters that are just kind of happen to be arguing the same point. So we all know the difference between that, I hope. So now we need to judge how well did they live up to that standard. So we know each speaker has a particular role. Speaker number 1, their job is to introduce the team's case and lay out the first main arguments. Speaker number 2 is supposed to continue developing the case, adding more arguments, more evidence, more supporting facts, as well as rebuttals. And finally, we have the we have the third speaker who does not introduce any more new arguments. If they do, that's something you need to consider. They should not be introducing new arguments. They should be summarizing the arguments made by their team already. And they should be delivering a closing statement to help try to help the judges to decide to agree with their case. So how well does each speaker fulfill their role? And then not only that, but how well do the speakers work as a team? So are they helping each other? So does the second speaker make reference perhaps to an argument made by the first speaker? To build onto their case, for example, is there something like, you remember the first speaker of my team made this argument. Well, I would like to develop that point by further saying, and then adding more information. So are they working together? That's an important one. Their characterization of the motion. So when we talk about the characterization of the motion, you can as either team, you can decide what that motion means to your team before you build the case. So for example, I'm just trying to think of a good example. For example, all school students should be made to all school students should be made to play at least one sport. So, for example, the proposition team can characterize that motion as looking out for everybody's health. So they can make the case and make arguments that say that everyone should do sport because sport is, it's great exercise. It's going to make you healthy. You're going to get fit. It reduces the risks of certain health problems, pointing out all of the health reasons, and they can make a case around that. However, the opposition case can then make the opposition team can then make the case and say something like, well, we're characterizing it as they're forcing us to do something we don't want to do. Not all students like sport. Some students could use that time better developing the talents that they're interested in rather than being made to do sports. There could be a bullying angle they might take. The kids that are good at sport might pick on or take advantage of the kids that aren't good at sport. And that can make those kids feel uncomfortable or upset or something, and you can play to the emotional thing. So how are you characterizing the motion, or how are you building a case around the motion, essentially? That's an important one. Do they have a good reason, or have they thought of a good take on that motion, or are they just sitting there, or are they just putting forth arguments to say, well, no, kids shouldn't do sport, just kind of throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks? And again, that's very obvious when a team does that, and you want to reward a team that works well together and builds a coherent case. This next one, this is a big one, handling of POIs. So I'm not sure if there are any moderators here currently, but it is the moderator's job to run the POI. They do not, or they should not ask the debater, do you want to accept this point of information? They should not be asking that. As soon as a POI is raised, it is up to the moderator. They can either accept it, pause the proceedings, and run the POI as it should be run with the timers and the clocks, or they should reject it. But if they do reject it, they need to have a reason, and they need to be fair. So you can't let one team, you can't let one team face 5 POIs and then have the other, let the other team get away with 2, even though the other team tried to raise like 4 POIs. Keep it as even as possible. So if you're going to accept 4 POIs for one team, it's 4 for the other team. But yeah, so that's important, handling the points of information. Use of rebuttals. So the point of a rebuttal is to discredit your opponent's argument. So you're not trying to attack the team. You're not trying to say, well, they've said this, but like, what about that? And just mention something else. So when you rebut, your sole purpose should be, yes, Max, I'll answer your question in just a moment. So with the rebuttals, the point should be, this you made this argument. Here's my argument that proves that your argument is incorrect or doesn't matter. Or because of my argument, yeah, your argument is irrelevant. So that's what they're trying to do with their rebuttals. And that's what you should be judging them on with their rebuttals. Judge Max.
So when a team presents a logical fallacy, like something like ad hominem or red herrings, what should I minus their points inside the strategy or in the content?
So no. So if they're doing if they're using red herrings or presenting fallacies or anything like that, that is the quality of their information. That would be a reduction in content mark, not in strategy.
Okay, thank you.
Very welcome. Thank you, Max. Very good question. Team strategy. So when it comes to team strategy, again, this is kind of similar to how well do the team speakers fulfill their role, except this is more to do with anything extra that they may do. So their role is fulfilling the job that they're there to do. Do they fill that role? And the team strategy, that the point of that is, how do they do the job? So do they try and, for example, are they trying to bait the other team into perhaps trying to make a logical fallacy to defend a point? Or do they just have very strong substantive arguments that, or do they have very strong substantive arguments that just do the job, and then they just use the rebuttals to try and coast over the line? So yeah, basically the longer you're a judge for, the better you get at picking this up. But essentially the team strategy, you won't really know who had the best team strategy until you figure out who won, because the team with the better strategy will obviously come out on top because they're better prepared. The next thing is a clear team line. So that kind of comes back to characterization of the motion of, how is the team working together well to develop a coherent case where the first speaker opens, the second speaker makes it even stronger, and the third speaker just closes the deal? Or again, is it just three individuals who just happen to be arguing for the same side of a debate? They're not really acting like a team. And that's to do with their arguments. Do their arguments flow in one logical line? Are they building a case, or are they kind of just, again, picking at stuff to see what's going to work? And of course, good use of substantives. So if you use your substantives well, like to the point where this is the strategy side of it. You're very careful with your wording. You're very, to try and reduce the chances of a POI. Oh, sorry. Speaking of POIs, one thing I did forget to mention. So it is entirely up to the moderator to accept or reject the POIs of the person that raised the POI. It's up to the debater whether they wish to reply to the POI. So with the strategy in this, if they do reply to the POI, that is better. Of course, they have the choice not to, but that means that basically means that they're not prepared to fight that POI, or they're not prepared to argue that POI. So they're basically ceding that point to their opponent who raised the POI in the first place. So that's something you need to consider when you're judging whether a debater accepts or rejects the chance to reply to the POI. That's the that's the part that the debater has a choice on. But back to the use of substantives. So yeah, that the way that comes into strategy is, you know, things like your wording, because I can say the same sentence in two different ways. In one way, you wouldn't be able to argue it. And in the second way I say it, I could make it mean something completely different that you would be able to say, hang on a second, that's not quite right. So the strategies, things like wording, so you can try and avoid having a POI raised. It can even be things like the order of the speeches. You know, so for example, one issue might cause another issue. So it would make more sense to present the first issue first and then say, and if this issue is not managed, it can lead into my second issue, which is, and then you can talk about the second issue because you can talk about how the first one affects the second one. So they're using their substantives very well to try and create a strong argument. And that is good use of substantives. Now, one final thing I would like to share with you guys about this. So we see here, so substantive speeches, we've got 10, 10, and 5 for an overall score of 25. Excellent is 8. And I mean, be honest, guys, but realistically, with where NCSN is in its infancy with this tournament and how long our organization's been debating for, we're probably looking at average to very good marks at tops. Like, I'll be very surprised if somebody genuinely earns an excellent score today. So, and you know, and so again, you know, like you may want to be nice and you may want to, you know, like not hurt their feelings if they've done something not so well, but of course you're gonna help them more in the long run by telling them that they need to improve now so they get better, and then they're better in the future. Rather than go, oh no, that's good, and they keep making the same mistakes because you don't want to upset them. So be honest with your grading. Talk to the other judges so you can all kind of get a feel for where everybody's scoring. Do this in the preparation times. Don't do this while the debaters are talking. Do it in the preparation times where you can kind of compare and see where you're all at, see if you're all on the same kind of page with your scores. Now, with the reply speeches, we see there it's only 6, 6, and 3. So we've got a total score of 15 for the reply speeches. So I want to make sure we're judging the reply speeches too. And the reply speeches, we're looking for the same things as the substantive speeches. They'll just have different information that they're presenting. Oh, there was something else I needed to discuss. Ms. Duck. Ms. Duck?
Yes, I'm here.
There's something I know I need to speak to them about, but I've just completely forgotten it.
The feedback.
Yes, feedback. Thank you, Ms. Duck.
Okay. So we nominate because my experience last one is they don't know who will do what. So if we allocate them the task now, then they prepare and they can do a better job, right?
Okay,
so
sweet. So I'll run through feedback with them then just quickly. So when you're taking notes for feedback, guys, don't sit there and try and write whole sentences. Don't go, they made this argument and the way they said it with their eye contact I thought was good because it provided a good thing to do this, and can't do it because by the time you write that, they've moved on to their next argument. You've lost a whole bunch of stuff you can mark. So just take little dot point notes. So like, things like while you're watching and listening, right? Things like for each speaker, good eye contact, posture needs work, voice sounds confident, maybe use more emphasis, good enunciation, arguments were clear. So write these short little notes about each speaker and make sure you're taking notes and taking the score for each speaker. Because we had one judge last week, I think that I don't think they marked any reply speech. They didn't do any feedback. All they had were the scores. Yeah, we that made the feedback at the end a little bit difficult. So just make sure that you're aware of it now, that you need to be taking notes to offer feedback. Yes, Rob. Judge Rob.
The very last debate, like they don't, some judges don't know how to give the feedback, and they just check. They do the points and they forgot about the feedback, and I think they forgot their role. So should we choose who will? We have how many do we have? 5.
5. What? Sorry.
How many judges do we have?
How many judges?
Yeah.
Ms. Duck, how many judges today? Is it 3?
Let me
Ms.
check.
Duck?
We have 5 judges.
5 judges today. Okay, yeah. So
Hmm.
all 5 judges, you need to make sure that you are taking feedback and scoring the debaters. Now, so when you give feedback, and so taking these notes also helps you to work out who was the best speaker, because as well as score, you've also got little notes that you can actually give the speaker and say, like, the reason you were best speaker is. And yeah, so yeah, so with the feedback, so just take little notes, and again, keep them short and sweet, so keep them short as possible so you can write them quickly, but don't make them so short you can't understand them when you go back to read them. But yeah, so feedback for all 6 speakers. Mark and do feedback for the reply speeches as well.
Also,
now,
can
so
you make the G first?
Sorry, Rob?
Can you make the the scores, worksheets for us to check in details the points?
Yes. So the way it's going to work today is that we're going to get the debaters in. We're going to give them the motion, give them an hour to prepare. So during that hour, I'll make up some scoring sheets for the judges, so you guys can all use them today. I'll make them so that it's one score sheet. Also, I'll try and make it so that each debater has their own sheet essentially. So I'll make it so that you'll need one sheet for each debater. Okay. And yeah, so when you're giving the feedback, so after the debate's over, the judges will go away and deliberate. This is where you guys talk about everything. So, talk with each other about the scores you gave, talk with each other about the feedback, the things you liked, the things you thought they could do better. And because maybe something that you noticed another judge didn't, but that might affect the score that they, that they might want to give, or, like they could earn a debater points, maybe deduct a point, something like that. But talk about it so you all come up with the score. And then, so nominate a head judge. Do that in the hour that the debaters will have to prepare, but nominate a head judge. And this judge is kind of like the chair of your panel. So any announcements from the judges will be made by that head judge. So they'll introduce the whole feedback thing. They'll announce the winners. They'll announce the best speaker. And provide that feedback. And then each judge we'll just go through all 6 of the debaters and just give them, don't so much give them the score because I've already talked about that, but give them the feedback one at a time. So judge 1 gives each of the 6 debaters their feedback. Just keep it short and sweet, something they can work on and something that they did well in the debate. Then we move on to the next judge. They'll give each of the 6 debaters their feedback. Again, 1 positive thing they did well, 1 thing they need to work on for next time. And then, we'll do the feedback that way. So that way, all the judges get a chance to say something, and all of the judges get a chance to help the debaters improve and tell them what they've done well. So do we have any questions, judges, about what we need to do today?
Not anymore.
Beautiful. I hear no questions. All right. So thank you for your attention, judges. That's how we want to be scoring the debate today. Ms. Duck. Ms. Duck?
Yes, I'm here.
How
So
long-
you want to start?
Yeah. We're done
give me a
with the
second.
training.
Oh, okay. Give me just 1 second. I try to put my laptop on here. And then I stop this live stream first. Give me 1 second. All right. So while we are waiting, can I remind all the judges, including the moderator and the participant, can you please change your background? Because it will look more professional if we all have under our NCSN debate background.